Another quote from Pope Francis's Amoris Laetitia from paragraph 36, chapter 2, and this touches on that theme that I'm trying to express. To whom is he talking, and who needs to be self-critical, as he says? It's a very important question, and if you can't make some distinctions, we fall into a quagmire, I'm sorry to say. But here he says this, then too, we often present marriage in such a way that its unitive meaning, its call to grow in love, and its ideal of mutual assistance are overshadowed by an almost exclusive insistence on the duty of procreation. I don't know who he's talking about here. That may happen in Argentina, Venezuela, or South America in different ways. I don't get that impression, but it's possible he's thinking of that. I know he can't be thinking of the church in America these days, for there are few, if any, people that I know present marriage with almost an exclusive insistence on the duty of procreation. It's almost as if he's exaggerating that point because young people today are so opposed to the Catholic teaching on artificial birth control and sterilization that any mention of it is too much. And I could testify that as somebody who's talked to many, many engaged couples. And once the issue comes, even if it's one issue in 10, it's too much for them. So I'm not sure if the Pope is aware of the modern society that I live in. I'm sure he is an attentive and a reflective man, a man of God, guided by the Holy Spirit, undoubtedly. And if he's trying to criticize those who may almost exclusively insist on the duty of procreation over the growth in love and the ideal of mutual assistance, he's on target. I just don't know of any that are doing that now. Do you? Another aspect of Pope Francis's ambiguity, or who is he talking to when he refers to some of the self-criticism that we as a church have to make, I'm prepared to say he must be talking about others, not me. Now that sounds obnoxious, doesn't it? But I'm prepared to defend myself. He says this, nor have we, obviously us in the Catholic Church, the leaders, nor have we always provided solid guidance to young married couples. Now, if he's referring to Humanae Vitae, there are many who have not provided solid guidance to young married couples. And that is a fault, but I don't know that he's talking about that. Is he or isn't he? He goes on to say, for instance, like understanding their timetables, their way of thinking, and their concrete concerns. Now that seems to indicate he's saying that if we don't understand how busy people are and the young way of thinking, I don't know what that is exactly. Is the young way of thinking truer to God's way of thinking than older people's way of thinking? I don't think so. Hopefully, if you pay attention to Scripture, we grow with wisdom and grace as we grow older. And just the fact that they are young doesn't necessarily mean that their way of thinking is more in tune with the will of God. He goes on to say, at times we have also proposed a far too abstract and almost artificial theological ideal of marriage, far removed from the concrete situations and practicalities possible, the practical possibilities of real families. This excessive idealization, especially when we have failed to inspire trust in God's grace, has not helped to make marriage more desirable and attractive, but quite the opposite. Again, I'm not sure to whom he is speaking, but I don't get the feeling he's speaking to me. if he is, I have to protest because I have spent so much energy and effort in trying to make the idealistic image of marriage practical and doable, inspired by the grace of God. And again, underneath the surface, when reading through Amoris Laetitia, it is wise, it is good, it is important to keep the issue of Humanae Vitae close at hand. Where is he referring to it? What is he referring to? He doesn't want to tackle it directly, primarily because I think he knows it's so unpopular within Catholicism and outside of Catholicism too. And yet, if we don't keep that question in mind, the dominant modern thinking will carry the day. And indeed, his words can be misused to foster dissent instead of foster a true appreciation for what our Catholic Church has given to us, especially in the past 25, 30, 50, 100 years. Another thing I'd like to add is when he speaks about the excessive idealization that we in the Church put on marriage, I don't think we're putting in an artificial idealization of marriage. I think there is something naturally idealistic about marriage. I think the Church's idealistic concept of marriage flows from every young man and woman's idealistic interpretation of marriage. Every couple that walks down the aisle thinks their love is going to be better than the rest, or they're starting the story of Adam and Eve all over again. And then the realism that sets in, both the man and the woman, bring that idealization down to earth. So if in the natural world, a young man and a young woman have an idealistic interpretation or vision of marriage, should not the Church also have an idealistic vision of marriage? In fact, if you follow through the whole teachings, you see the idealism of theology is even more idealistic than the idealism of the fairy tales of princes and princesses. I'm Father Tom Koys. God bless you.